Hello and welcome to BeFM Drama, where we turn great works of English literature into gripping radio. My name is Joshua Cornwell and I'm the host of this program. Tonight we're bringing you part 1 of 5 in The Yellow Face, a classic Sherlock Holmes detective story by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. As our story begins, the great detective Sherlock Holmes and his companion Dr. Watson return to their home in Baker Street to discover that they've just missed a client with a very interesting story to tell. In publishing these short sketches based upon the numerous cases in which my companion's singular gifts have made us the listeners to some strange drama, it is only natural that I should focus more upon his successes than his failures. And this, not so much for the sake of his reputation, but because where he failed, it happened too often that no one else succeeded, and that the tale was left forever without a conclusion. Now and again, however, it chanced that even when he made mistakes, the truth was still discovered. I have noted some half-dozen cases of that kind, of which that which I am now about to recount presents the strongest features of interest. Sherlock Holmes was a man who seldom exercised for exercise's sake. Few men were capable of greater muscular effort, and he was one of the finest boxers of his weight that I have ever seen. But he looked upon aimless bodily exertion as a waste of energy, and he seldom stirred himself, save for when there was some professional object to be served. Then he was absolutely untiring and unstoppable. That he should have kept himself fit under such circumstances is remarkable, but his diet was usually of the sparest, and his habits were simple to the verge of austerity. Save for an occasional overexcitement, he had no vices, and he only experienced such periods when cases were scanty and the papers uninteresting, and the monotony of existence became overwhelming to him. One day in early spring, he had so far relaxed as to go for a walk with me in the park, where the first faint shoots of green were breaking out upon the elms, and the sticky spearheads of the chestnuts were just beginning to burst into their 5-fold leaves. For 2 hours we rambled about together, in silence for the most part, as befits two men who know each other intimately. It was nearly 5 before we were back in Baker Street once more. Our page boy greeted us as he opened the door.
Beg pardon, sir. There's been a gentleman here asking for you, sir.
Holmes glanced reproachfully at me.
So much for afternoon walks. Has the gentleman gone, then?
Yes, sir.
Didn't you ask him in?
Yes, sir. He came in.
How long did he wait?
Half an hour, sir. He was a very restless gentleman, sir. Walking and the stamping all the time he was here. At last he outs into the passage, and he cries, I'll wait in the open air, for I feel half choked. And with that he ups and he outs.
Well, you did your best.
We walked together up to our rooms.
Oh, it's very annoying, though, Watson. I was badly in need of a case, and this looks from the man's impatience as if it were important. Hello? That's not your pipe on the table. He must have left his behind. A nice old briar with a good long stem of what the tobacconists call amber. It's fake, though. I wonder how many real amber mouthpieces there are in London. Well, he must have been disturbed in his mind to leave a pipe behind him, which he evidently values highly.
How do you know that he values it highly?
Well, I should put the original cost of the pipe at 7 and 6 pence. Now, it has, you see, twice been mended. Once in the wooden stem and once in the amber. Each of these mends done, as you observe, with silver bands must have cost more than the pipe did originally. The man must value the pipe highly when he prefers to patch it up rather than buy a new one with the same money.
Holmes turned the pipe about in his hand, staring at it in his peculiar pensive way. He held it up and tapped on it with his long, thin forefinger, as a professor might who is lecturing on a bone.
Pipes are occasionally of extraordinary interest. Nothing has more individuality, save perhaps watches and bootlaces. The indications here, however, are neither very marked nor very important. The owner is obviously a muscular man, left-handed with an excellent set of teeth, careless in his habits, and with no need to practice economy.
My friend threw out the information in a very offhand way, but I saw that he cocked his eye at me as if to see if I had followed his reasoning. You think a man must be well-to-do if he smokes a 7-shilling pipe?
Well, the tobacco in it is a gross venom mixture at 8 pence an ounce. As he might get an excellent smoke for half the price, he has no need to practice economy.
And the other points?
He has been in the habit of lighting his pipe at lamps and gas jets. You can see that it is quite charred all down one side. Of course, a match could not have done that. Why would a man hold a match to the side of his pipe? But you cannot light it at a lamp without getting the bowl charred, and it is all on the right side of the pipe. From that, I gather that he is a left-handed man. You, hold your own pipe to the lamp and see how naturally you, being right-handed, hold the left side to the flame. You might do it once that way, but not as a constancy. This has always been held so. Then he has bitten through his amber. It takes a muscular, energetic fellow, and one with a good set of teeth to do that. But if I am not mistaken, I hear him upon the stair, so we shall have something more interesting than his pipe to study.
An instant later, our door opened, and a tall young man entered the room. He was well but quietly dressed in a dark gray suit and carried a brown bag in his hand. I should have put him at about 30, though he was really some years older.
I beg your pardon. I suppose I should have knocked. Yes, of course, I should have knocked. The fact is that I'm a little upset, and you must put it all down to that.
He passed his hand over his forehead like a man who was half dazed, and then fell rather than sat down upon a chair.
I can see that you have not slept for a night or two. That tries a man's nerves more than work, and even more than pleasure. May I ask, how can I help you?
I wanted your advice, sir. I don't know what to do, and my whole life seems to have gone to pieces.
You wish to employ me as a consulting detective?
Not that only. I want your opinion as a judicious man, as a man of the world. I want to know what I ought to do next. I hope to God you'll be able to tell me.
He spoke in little, sharp, jerky outbursts, and it seemed to me that to speak at all was very painful to him, and that his will all through was overriding his inclinations.
It's a very delicate thing. One does not like to speak of one's domestic affairs to strangers. It seems dreadful to discuss the conduct of one's wife with two men whom I've never seen before. It's horrible to have to do it, but I've got to the end of my tether, and I must have advice.
My dear Mr. Grant Munro.
Our visitor sprang from his chair.
What? You know my name?
If you wish to preserve your incognito, I would suggest that you cease to write your name upon the lining of your hat, or else that you turn the crown toward the person whom you are addressing. I was about to say that my friend and I have listened to a good many strange secrets in this room, and that we have had the good fortune to bring peace to many troubled souls. I trust that we may do as much for you. Might I beg, as time proved to be of importance, to furnish me with the facts of your case without further delay?
Our visitor again passed his hand over his forehead, as if he found it bitterly hard. From every gesture and expression, I could see that he was a reserved, self-contained man, with a dash of pride in his nature, more likely to hide his wounds than to expose them. Then, suddenly, with a fierce gesture of his closed hand, like one who throws reserve to the winds, he began. And so we come to the end of our first episode, as Grant Munro begins his telling of the strange story that has led him to seek advice from the legendary detective Sherlock Holmes. Join us again tomorrow evening here on BeFM Drama as we dive deeply into Munro's story, discovering in the process what has led him into such a nervous and anxious state of mind. From our studio in Busan, this is your host, Joshua Cornwell, who provided the voice of Dr. Watson on tonight's program. Sherlock Holmes was played by Ryan Estrada, and Grant Munro and the Page Boy were played by David Kim.